I love the word legacy. Most people, when they hear that word, they start thinking about wills and trusts and money. I like it because to me, when you leave a legacy for someone, it's how do I want to be remembered? And and I have a activity that I do with people that I coach that sounds kind of harsh, but when you do it, it really helps clarify. But write your own obituary. What do you want to be remembered for? Do you want to be remembered for, I don't know, how much money you have? Probably not. So, leaving a legacy is how are you leaving an impact on your community, on your family?
Hello, and welcome to episode 232 of the Quiet and Strong podcast, especially for introverts. I'm your host, David Hall, and the creator of quietandstrong.com. This is a weekly podcast dedicated to understanding the strengths and needs of introverts, along with strategies for success. Introversion is not something to fix, but to be embraced. Normally, we will air each episode on a Monday. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform. Leave a review or a rating. That would mean a lot to me and also help others find the show. Tell a friend about the podcast and help get the word out there that introversion is a beautiful thing. Today's guest is Dawn Marcotte, a certified professional retirement coach who brings both expertise and heart to the conversations around life transitions. Dawn today is not focusing on the financial aspects of retirement, but other important factors around retirement and life transitions. Dawn is also a dedicated mom to two wonderfully introverted young adults. She's a marathon runner, an author, and a voracious reader of mystery novels. With a deep appreciation for personal growth and introverted strength, she helps others navigate the journey into retirement with clarity and confidence. When she's not coaching or writing, you'll find her traveling with her husband or enjoying quality time with her family, at least when her kids let her, of course. All right. Well, welcome, Don. Welcome to the Quiet and Strong podcast. It's good to have you on today.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into the work you do. So
Thank you.
tell us about yourself and your journey to the work that you do.
Well, I'm a mom. I'm a marathon runner. I am an avid reader of all things mystery and sci-fi, but I am also a certified professional retirement coach and an executive assistant. So I'm, the working mom. And I am an author, which is actually my first love. I've always loved putting words together to help other people to share information. So I write nonfiction. I just don't have the skill set to write fiction. I have never mastered that. So
Yeah.
mine is all about the nonfiction. But I first started writing in the early 2000s when my kids were little and we needed a little bit extra money, and there was this new thing called the internet, and they said, well, if you go write a book and publish it, people will buy it and you'll make money. And they were right. It worked. So that kind of got me started in the whole writing, and I love it. It's one of those places where I can spend hours writing and not realize that I've spent that much time doing it. So it's my favorite thing.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about your latest book, but for the moment, like just how many books have you written and just kind of summarize what they've been about.
So I've got about 20 books out there. And as I said, I started back when the internet was new, and the kind of the general pattern for me was I would run into an issue or a problem or whatever in my own life, kind of do the research, figure it out, solve it for myself, and then write a book and publish the book in an effort to help other people. So I started in what is now the parenting space. This is long enough ago that didn't really exist, but in the parenting space, writing books about activities and things for kids to do so they didn't have their face in front of a screen, because I was really passionate about the kids don't need to have their face in front of a screen. And this is way back when it was just television and a desktop computer. I didn't even have to deal with all the things that parents these days have to deal with. But anyway, so I wrote a bunch of books in that space. And then my kids got older, and that wasn't really where I was anymore. So then, subsequent books were on topics like, working moms losing weight and I have a special needs child. My oldest daughter is autistic. So how do you get them into college? How do you get them through college? And of course, along the line, I picked up a lot of information around being an online entrepreneur. So I've done some books around that as well. So it kind of, like I said, follows that pattern of find a problem, solve the problem, write the book, publish the book.
Okay. And we're going to get into your latest book, but first, you're a fellow introvert. Tell us
I
about
am.
that. When did you figure that out? Did you have to learn to embrace it?
Actually, I didn't really figure it out. My father figured it out for me.
Okay.
Uh, my father was really into the Myers-Briggs personality type testing, if you're familiar with that particular one. So he did, he gave everybody in the family the test, and I was in probably middle school at that point.
Okay.
And so he says, "Oh, look, you are the exact opposite of me. You're an INFP, and he's an ESTJ. Yay!" I'm like, okay. The I explains a lot. Because I was kind of the quiet one in the family, not nearly as outgoing as my father. And I just thought that was, well, that's he's a salesman. That's just part of being a salesman. That's who he is, and I'm not. So that's kind of when it first was brought to my attention that that's what I am.
Yeah, I've greatly benefited from the Myers-Briggs myself. I'm an
Hmm.
INTJ,
Okay.
and it just really helped me see, yeah, I'm an introvert, but there's great strengths that come from
Oh, for
this.
sure.
And when I didn't understand my strengths and I didn't understand what introversion was, I lacked confidence. I was shy. But since then, doing
Hmm.
things like the Myers-Briggs and other things, it's like, yeah, there's some great strengths here. I just have to know how to work them.
Exactly. And it's kind of funny because later on in my life when I worked in the for some larger corporations, they were all about, well, here's the latest, personality testing thing for right now. And I don't remember which one it was, but one of them I took, and the gentleman that gave the seminar said, it's really important that you take those things that you're really good at and work on those and make those the best they can be. Don't worry about trying to make these other things that you're not good at, try to get good at them. Don't bother. Your strength is not there. Focus on being excellent at what you're already good at. And that was so eye-opening for me because I had spent my whole life, as I'm sure many other introverts, trying to live up to what the culture says we should be, because that just was never comfortable for me. And so having someone say, "No, no, no, you're okay the way you are. Focus on what you're good at and truly be excellent at that, and you will be successful." So that was just amazing to me.
Yeah. Did you say that was a particular assessment?
I want to say it was the Clifton Strengths Finder.
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So between the Myers-Briggs and the
Mm-hmm.
Clifton Strengths Finder is those greatly benefited me. And with Clifton Strengths, it's not all about introversion, extroversion,
Mm-mm.
but my key takeaway was like what you're describing. It's like, oh, I have strengths. They come naturally to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I should focus on them and not worry so much about the weaknesses.
Yeah, it was amazing because it's funny when I worked for this particular company, I worked there for 16 years and I got an annual review every year. And every year they gave me the same little area that I wasn't very good at that they thought I needed to get good at. And I finally said to my boss, "No, this is as good as it gets at that. If you don't think I'm doing it well, find someone else to do that." And that's exactly what they did because I just wasn't living up to that, and I was never going to get good at it. So that was really, really an awesome conversation to have.
Yeah, that's so much of what we talk about on this show is you have to be able to articulate that to people
Hmm.
like these are my strengths, these are my needs, and no amount of fixing is going to change that.
No, no, I am never going to be so detail oriented that I can do Excel spreadsheets, which was what they wanted me to be doing. I
Yeah.
just, I just do not have that skill set. I know people that have that skill set and they are fantastic at it. And I just look at them and my eyes glaze over. I just can't do it. But, once I was able to articulate that, no, this is not something I'm ever going to get good at, they were like, "Oh, okay, well, let's find, you know, somebody else." And they
Yeah,
did,
get
and
get
it
the
was
right
fine.
people doing the right things.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And
Exactly.
also just part of my whole journey was, realizing that I have my unique strengths. My wife is a fellow introvert, but she's always been very confident, so she didn't
Hmm.
struggle with it like I did.
Okay.
And then I have three kids, and anybody that has kids, they're different, and they came
Yeah.
that way. They're
Yeah.
not the same. I have two extroverts and one introvert, and they all have their great talents, but they're not the same.
Right. Yeah, I have two girls and they're I feel bad for my husband, I'll be honest. He's the only extrovert in our
Okay.
immediate family. So he doesn't understand why his girls are just at the end of the day not interested in talking to him. We have been out
Yeah,
in the world, my girls call it peopling. We have been peopling all day. We're tired. We're done. Just please stop talking and leave us alone
yeah,
for a little while. We'll come back around. We'll have a conversation, but we're not gonna
yeah.
be as engaged as maybe he would like for
Again,
us to be.
yeah, again, articulating needs. Did you have
Yeah.
to work through that with your husband, being an introvert and
Um,
extrovert?
a little bit, not too much because of our various work schedules. I usually actually get home about a half hour before he does. So and that's been pretty consistent through our whole work life, is I have
Okay.
always had some kind of buffer. Either I'm on the bus for 30 minutes coming from downtown, or I just get home early, whatever. I've always kind of had that buffer. So when he comes home, I'm usually ready and we'll have a not a long conversation, but historically 5, 10 minutes. How was your day, honey? Blah, blah, blah. All the usual stuff that you kind of do at the end of the day. But rather than doing it over supper, we do it right when he gets home because that's what he wants to do. He wants to share. This is what happened today. Let me tell you about this and blah, blah, blah. And so that we have managed to work through it, but that really has been kind of an accident. If I had not had that buffer, we would have been having a conversation about, honey, you need to give me 30 minutes and then we can chat. It'll be fine. Just give me some time.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's like a myth that we often bust on this show is that introverts don't like people. We absolutely love people, our friends, our family.
Mhm.
We need some space.
Mhm.
And I figured out the after work thing when I all of a sudden was solely working from home when I wasn't used to that.
Oh,
And
yes.
and now I was not having that space in my car to decompress after work, to think, and I had to figure out a way to replace that,
Mhm.
and basically I was walking from my home desk to my chair, my recliner in my bedroom, and I basically would say to the family, hey, I'm gonna drive home from work now and
Yeah,
and take about, like you said, about half an hour,
about a half an hour.
and
Yep,
then
usually
ready to
does it.
go hang out and have dinner and all that good stuff.
Exactly, exactly. And my kids are kind of the same way. They both have full-time jobs, but they work second shift, and so they really don't see us very much. But when they do, because their schedule is so different, they're usually at a place where they're ready to have a conversation because they
Yeah.
haven't seen us, right? So yeah, so it's worked out pretty well. Knock on wood. For
Oh,
us.
tell us, Don, what's the strength you have because you're an introvert?
Well, I think it's the fact that I do think more deeply about things, whether it's a problem at work or we got to plan something. I'm not someone who thinks fast on their feet. So, if people start firing questions at me after a presentation or at work or whatever, I'm not always ready for that. But I have found that when I have time to think about it, as I do, and come back to them, I usually have a more in-depth answer than maybe they had been looking for or expected. So I think that's really my strength, is that I can make connections between different things because I am thinking on a deeper level.
Yeah. And then, of course, we talk about strengths and needs, and we bust myths. Is there a
Hmm.
myth about introversion that you want to bust today?
I think the thing that I hear so much about being an introvert, because I am not shy about the fact that I'm an introvert. The company that I work for now, we have about 25 employees. Three of us are introverts. So every time we
Okay.
have a meeting or whatever, so I'm not shy about it. But the fact that that we don't like people, like you said, that's the expectation. Oh, she's not going to want to talk to me because she's an introvert. She's not going to want to do this activity because she's an introvert. And that's just not true. There are lots of things that I enjoy doing that involve lots of people. I just need to make sure that I have time to decompress when I'm done. I used to be an event planner, and that's a lot of people, a team, and you're, 200 people coming to this sales meeting, and I loved it. It was fantastic. But I needed a couple of days when we were done to recover and decompress. So that just drives me nuts that people will decide what I should and shouldn't be doing for me based on their concept of what an introvert is.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not a regular event planner, but I do a particular event every year, and I
Hmm.
love it. I love it,
Yeah.
and I love thinking about it, and being strategic and thinking about how to make it
Hmm.
work. But
Hmm.
there's some things I don't care as much about, like
Hmm.
honestly, I don't care about the centerpieces, but there's people that do.
That do.
And
Yes.
partnering is key to all of this too.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's one of the things that as I've gotten older, I've come to realize because, our culture is all about you need to be the leader. You need to be the leader. I am not the leader. I am support staff. I work best with a team of people. We all have different ideas, different opinions. I'm very good at helping people communicate with each other in a way that is effective so that everybody feels heard, but I am not the leader. And it took me a long time to understand I don't need to be the leader. It's okay to be the worker bee and make sure that things get done. And that's something that I have embraced and am quite proud that I am, for those of us that are a little bit older, I am the Radar O'Reilly of my company. I am the go-to person, and I work very hard to be that go-to person to get things done.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into your work at being a retirement coach.
Hmm.
What do you say is the number one indicator of happiness? And does that look different for introverts?
Well, actually, it's not just me. Studies have shown that the number one indicator of happiness, regardless of where you are in life, is your relationships, the state of your relationships. And we're not talking about quantity here. That's the thing about introverts. We're told that friendships are important. This is not he who has the most friends wins. This is more about having the relationships that meet your needs, that are quality, not quantity. And it's so easy to get sucked into the idea that, oh my gosh, I only have three friends. Somehow that makes me less. And it doesn't. If that is enough for you, then that is enough. And I get frustrated sometimes with people that don't understand that they feel like, oh, my husband has all these friends and they go and they do and I should do that. I should want to do that. No, you don't have to want to do that. You can be you. It's okay. But yeah, that relationships, the quality, whether it's, family, husband, wife, spouse, whatever, friends, relationships, other family member, whatever it is that works for you, that's what's important.
Yeah, and it's that we love to have conversations, but we want to
Hmm.
go deep. And those
Yes.
it's normal to have a smaller set of friends, which is just fine, just like you said.
Hmm. Yeah. And, I find, so for example, I'll use myself as this example. I have three friends, only one of which lives in the same state that I do. So, that's something I think that introverts are are better able to manage because we call each other regularly, whatever, but we don't feel that need that we have to see each other face to face every week or whatever, which I think some extroverts struggle with. They really, really need more face to face interaction than what an introvert is maybe comfortable with. So, you don't have to live next door to your best friend. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you decide to become a retirement coach?
Well, actually, it started with where I currently work. In full disclosure, I do work for a financial planning firm, and as I mentioned, they're kind of small. They give really good all-employee meetings. So instead of bringing a speaker in that's just talking to the advisors about financial things, They bring in speakers that have a more general appeal. And a couple of years ago, they brought in a speaker who talked about the last 8,000 days of your life. So if you break your life up roughly into 8,000 days, that's your childhood, your young adulthood, your midlife, and then the last 8,000s are your retirement. And this particular speaker talked about the fact that for those first three sections, there are always people around willing to help you, to guide you, to mentor you, family, friends, organizations. Sometimes it's an entire industry that will be happy to help you figure out how to move forward in your life in whatever it is. But when you hit retirement, the only thing people are talking about are the finances. You're not going to spend the next 30 years of your life looking at your bank account. There's so much more to it. The changes that are the psychological, emotional, intellectual, social, all of these things change when you retire. And my husband is getting close to retirement. He'll be retiring in the next year or two. So that really hit home for me. Oh my gosh, here's this man whose whole world is wrapped up in work. And when he leaves, what is he going to do? He's going to pester me. Not going to work. That's just not going to work, right? And
Yeah.
so it really resonated with me. And I have quite a few friends that are in that age group that are just approaching within a year or two of retirement. And so I decided I really wanted to dig in and find out more about this and solve this problem and write my book and put it out there. And so there is kind of a new push, really, in the United States towards creating this industry around coaching for the non-financial side of things. So I, found the certified professional retirement coach program and, went through it and got certified and just really embraced. I learned so much. And of course, I'm an avid reader, so I read tons of books and things like that. But yeah, it just the idea that when you leave work, there's so much more to life, and people are just completely unprepared because they've been sold this story that when you retire, it's going to be a never ending vacation, which it can be for the first 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year. But the thing about when you're on vacation is you have something to go back to that gives you a purpose. If your vacation never ends, you have no purpose. And that's just makes that just doesn't work for most people. We need a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah. Talk more about that. Like, what, why is having a purpose so valuable? Because I hear this. I hear
Hmm.
that people really struggle when they retire thinking it's going to be an endless vacation and they don't have have a purpose in mind.
No, no. Well, part of it is our job gives us so much more than just a paycheck that we don't really think about. It gives us a routine that whether we like it or not, we have to get out of bed at a certain time and be in a certain place and that kind of thing. It gives us a lot of social interaction, which even as an introvert, we still need that social interaction. But it also gives us some emotional support. The hey, you did a really great job on that project. Hey, I really appreciated your help. That kind of thing. The positive feedback. And it gives us intellectual stimulation. So you have to think about, okay, I got to do that report. I got to do this, got to do that, whatever. It keeps your mind sharp. So when all of that goes away and we no longer have anyone who needs us to do anything, there's a certain amount of anxiety that comes with that because you just feel lost and some people get very depressed, very anxious. There can be substance abuse because again, if you think about it, if no one cares whether you get out of bed or not, why do you get out of bed? Without that purpose, it can just send you down this really dark spiral. And so that's what I'm trying to help people avoid is to plan for those different losses that come with leaving your job so that they don't have that feeling. And that first 6 months of freedom is exhilarating. It's fantastic. And I encourage everyone to embrace it and just enjoy it as much as they can. But when they start feeling that, I can't really play another round of golf again, right? Feeling or, my grandkids are great, but I can't be with them all the time. That kind of thing, where you're just starting to get a little dissatisfied with what you thought you were going to do. It's time to start on the next step, whatever it is. Hopefully you read my book and you have a great plan and and you're ready to roll. But, people that don't have a purpose really struggle. And we saw that in the pandemic where we were forced to be at home with no purpose, no social, none of the things that we are used to having. And the psychological and emotional and all of the bad things, the loneliness that came from that, where it became epidemic and people became more aware of that. Well, that's kind of what retirement is. They've taken all of that away from you. You got to figure it out on your own, or you call me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what's the title of your latest book?
My latest book is Filling the Blank Page, Building a Retirement of Passion and Purpose. It's really kind of focused on helping you understand that there are going to be these changes, first of all, because most people are not even aware, and then kind of making a plan of how to replace those things. So how do you replace your social structure, your social network? Because if you're like my husband and all of your social stuff is at work and you don't have any friends outside of that job, that's going to be a problem when you don't have that anymore. And I mean, anyone who's gone from one job to another and tried to stay in contact with previous coworkers probably kind of has a feel for that. When the only thing you have in common is that job, it's really hard to maintain that friendship. So my book, kind of talks about this, and it actually has some different step-by-step things that you can do so that when you're done, you actually have, ideally, you have a plan, whether it's one you post on your refrigerator or whatever you want to do with it, but you actually know how you are going to deal with these different aspects that change in retirement so that you kind of skip over the second phase of retirement, which is commonly called the lost phase, which is what happens after you get out of the honeymoon phase.
Yeah. Are Do you think a lot of people are surprised when they retire and they actually miss their work friends?
Yes, yes. I think people do not really understand that loss. That again, if you perhaps have never changed jobs or you've never had that transition and you've always had good friendships with people at work, but all you're talking about at work is work, when that's gone and you don't share that anymore, there might be a few lunches, a little bit of interaction, but they just are not going to have time to deal with you, to interact with you, and probably not have anything in common to talk about. Once you've filled them in on all the gossip at work, what are you going to do with the next hour of your lunch?
Right, right,
Right? You
right.
know.
Don, something I really enjoyed about your book was your section on values,
Hmm.
how to clarify them. And I
Yes.
mean, I saw that as if you haven't already done that, no matter if you're 20 or 60, it's a good exercise to, for your life right now and to plan for retirement. Tell us about how do you clarify your values and why is that important?
Oh, I love that. Yes, because understanding your values gives you a compass that you can use to say yes and no to all of the choices that come in your life. So, I recommend one of the tools I should say I recommend is the Think to Perform values finder. It's online, it's free. You don't have to give them your email or anything like that, which is the other reason that I really like it because then you don't get on somebody's spam list. But basically, they have 50 values and they define them, and you go through and you just narrow it down until you get to your top five of what your values are. And I think it is so important to have that and to keep it where you can see it fairly regularly so that when you get that offer to for a promotion, I don't know, whatever, you can look at your values and go, okay, does that line up? Or somebody asks you to volunteer over here at this particular company or this organization. Again, you can look at your values and see if that lines up. But in addition to your values, I also think it's important to understand your character strengths. We talked about the strength finder a little earlier. The ones that the corporation use is to identify the tasks that you are good at, not your personality, not your characteristics as a person. The VIA character finder focuses on your character. So when you put those two together and you really understand who you are, it makes it easier to say no, basically. When somebody offers something, and Many retirees run into this. When you retire, I should say frequently, people are, hey, you're retired, you've got time, come volunteer and be on this board or do this or do that. And if you don't understand who you are and you don't have a way to fill your time anyway, you might think, oh, sure, I'll go try that. Well, it may or may not be the right choice for you. But when you understand what your values and your character is, you can either say, well, yes, that's right up my alley. I would love to do that. Or no, I'm sorry, that just doesn't align with what I'm doing in my retirement. Thank you very much for asking, though. And when you have that, right, you can say no, because that's one of those things that I'm going to be a little sexist here for a minute. Women in particular can find very hard to do is to say no when they don't feel like they have a valid reason for saying no, even though they know they don't want to do that thing. And that may be true for introverts across the board as well. So when you understand your values and who you are, you have that bigger no that you can say.
Yeah, absolutely. You also write about the importance of being resilient in
Mhm.
retirement. What tell us about that?
Well, resiliency is really, really important throughout life. I mean, we all know life happens. It's not a smooth path for anyone for our entire life. So, resiliency is one of those things. It's like when you do weight training and you build your muscles by constantly stressing them a little bit, and so you get a little bit stronger. Resiliency is kind of the same way. When you have encountered difficulties and you are able to work through them and manage through them, the next time you encounter a difficulty, you're a little bit stronger. So one of the easiest ways to develop resiliency is to focus on gratitude. That's my personal favorite because that happens to be one of my character strengths. But anyway, being able to look at the brighter side of things, I think can really help people. And particularly when you get to retirement, there there are some negatives that people are not prepared for, that they don't realize that are going to happen. And I'm talking about things like you look a little older, and this can happen before retirement. You look a little older, you're in the checkout line and you fumble for your wallet and the clerk rolls her eyes. Why did she roll her what? Does she think I'm incompetent? Right? Things like that that can, if you're already feeling a little less than perfect about yourself, you see that, and that can really have an impact on you. So building that resiliency to understand, make a joke and move on and it's fine. That can really help get through just everyday things that happen to people, as well as the more difficult times that have inevitably come to us all.
Yeah, and as people are older in that retirement phase, there's likely to be new challenges that they've never encountered before.
Oh, for sure. For sure. In every area of life, there can be those challenges. As I mentioned before, when you retire, you've got lots of people coming at you. Hey, help me do this, help me do that. But you also start having people ignore you because you're old. And we've all
Yeah.
seen those commercials about turning into your parents. And I think they're hysterically funny. But the underlying assumption is that as we age, we become less competent and less important. And that can be something that people really struggle with I'm not like that. And I need to help other people understand that I'm not like that. I'm still a vibrant, articulate, intelligent individual and I'm going to go out there and do fabulous things.
So we've talked about, having a purpose, clarifying your values. Does your identity change when you retire?
It can. It depends on what you base your identity on before you retire. So, for example, my father, who owned his own business for 30, probably 40 years, I guess what it was, his whole identity was out around being a business owner. So when he retired and was no longer a business owner, that was a hard shift for him. He really, really struggled with that for a long time until he found his footing again and kind of rediscovered himself, all those things he didn't do as a business owner because he didn't have time, hobbies and whatnot. And my mother helped him along. Now, my mother, who was a teacher for 30 plus years, did not I she was a teacher, but she also identified as many other things. She already had volunteer things that she did and groups that she was in and passions that she was able to take part in or pursue throughout her life. So when she retired, she was just putting aside one aspect of who she was. And she was able to move into retirement already fairly well prepared for things. And so it really kind of depends. You can also, unfortunately, there are people who kind of internalize what the culture says about older people, and that can be difficult because, again, our culture does not hold older people in much esteem. You know, we're old, we're useless, whatever, right? So when you start internalizing that, that can be a problem as well. So I think it's really important for people to, again, understand who they are, but understand that it's not about the age that you are, it's about what you're doing with your time that really should inform your identity.
Yeah. Are there any other myths about retirement that you want to bust?
Oh, there are so many to choose from. I think the most important myth, and I'm trying so hard to bust this one and get the word out, is that it is not a never-ending vacation. You need to prepare for retirement the same way you prepare for any other major life change. Retirement is actually one of the top 10 most stressful life events. And people just don't prepare for it the same way they prepare for having a baby or getting married or any of those other life events that happen. And it's so important to do that and not just focus on the financial stuff, but on all the other things that you do in your life.
Yeah. So I think we also, as we get older, we think about, what kind of legacy we're going to leave.
Hmm.
Talk about that.
So I love the word legacy. Most people, when they hear that word, they start thinking about wills and trusts and money. I like it because to me, when you leave a legacy for someone, it's how do I want to be remembered? And and I have a activity that I do with people that I coach that sounds kind of harsh, but when you do it, it really helps clarify. But write your own obituary. What do you want to be remembered for? Do you want to be remembered for, I don't know, how much money you have? Probably not. So, leaving a legacy is how are you leaving an impact on your community, on your family? And there's a great process that I suggest in my book where you actually create a notebook or a journal, a legacy journal, and you share things about your life and about you and life lessons that you want to share. And I really love that activity because I have found that when you do that and then you give it to the person that you're writing it for, because you do write it for a specific person, most of the time they are just so there's tears and right? It's awesome. It's phenomenal because frequently it's a parent giving it to a child or a grandchild, and it's showing who you are in a way that they have never experienced before. So opening yourself up and expanding that relationship is really powerful, really meaningful for a lot of people. So then the legacy that you're leaving behind is that love and that care, and it's just life changing, I think, for so many people when they actually follow through and do it.
Yeah, and it's all about the things that we've been talking about, having a purpose, what do you value,
Mhm.
and then what do you want your life to mean?
Mhm. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So Don, this has been a inspiring conversation. You
Oh,
know,
thank you.
no matter what, we should define our purpose now, but it's especially important when we hit that life change of
Mhm. Mhm.
retiring. Is there anything else that you want to add today?
The only other thing I wanted to maybe mention is I know that retirement for many people can be the first time in their life where they have the opportunity to do what they want to do the way they want to do it, especially as introverts. We spend our whole working life, for many of us, being told that we are somehow inferior because we're not extroverts. Well, when you retire, you don't have to do that anymore. You can be who you truly are and enjoy it. So that is my wish for everyone is that we are able to be who we are and just move forward and change the world, one retirement at a time because we're out there doing our thing, helping people.
Absolutely. So, Don, where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
So I'm actually most active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
If you happen to be on that platform, I also have a monthly newsletter called Introvert's Guide to a Retirement. And that is because I'm an introvert, not because I'm necessarily giving advice specific to introverts. And of course, I am on Amazon with my book. But yeah, the LinkedIn is probably the best way to find me and learn all about what I do.
Yeah, and the last thing you said there, it's like I think that we can learn best from other introverts.
Hmm.
Not that we can't learn from extroverts,
No,
but I can learn a lot from someone like yourself that shares some of the same characteristics. Everybody's different, nobody's exactly the same,
of
but
course.
understanding that what we the parts that we value as introverts, we can really learn a lot from fellow introverts.
Agreed. Agreed. Yes, very
All right.
much.
Well, thanks again.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you. I hope you take the time to explore other episodes and learn from other amazing guests. Remember, if you're interested in getting to know yourself better, there is now a free Type Finder personality assessment on the Quiet and Strong website. This free assessment will give you a brief report, including the four-letter Myers-Briggs code. I'll add a link in the show notes. And I'd love to connect with you. Reach out at david@quietandstrong.com or check out the quietandstrong.com website, which includes blog posts and links to social media for Quiet and Strong and much more. Send me topics or guests you would like to see on the show. So many great things about being an introvert, and so we need those to be understood. Get to know your introverted strengths and needs and be strong.